firm conducted that audit with Mr. Rodriguez as the lead on that account, and he is here to present those findings to you.
I come bearing gifts. Good evening, everybody. Is that better? Okay, thank you. Okay, again, my name is Pete Rodriguez. The name of our accounting firm is Cohen and Danowski. We're located out in Port Jefferson. And as Mrs. Cunningham had said, New York State Education Department requires that a school district get an audit of their annual financial statement once a year. So that was our job. We audited the financial statements. We follow our professional standards in performing the audit. The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants gives us the guidelines on how to audit an entity, whether it be government, commercial, business. Basically, the audits are generally the same. We also follow government auditing standards, which is specifically tailored towards governmental entities, and that's our responsibility, is to make sure that we perform the audit in accordance with our standards. The object of the external audit is to express an opinion on the financial statements. The opinion that we issue on the financial statements will tell the reader how much they can rely on the numbers that are included in this document. Okay, so if you look at our opinion, you'll see that the opinion says that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. We're looking at materiality. The statements include everything that should be in there that would not sway the reader to have a difference of opinion if something was missing. So we use materiality. We don't test 100% of the transactions, but we do sample. We gather enough information by looking at source documents of the district, whether it be purchase orders and invoices, whether it be contracts or salary to verify people are being paid appropriately, whether it be bank reconciliations or third-party reports from the state and the tax accounts to verify your revenues. The opinion will go on to say that the financial position at June 30th is fairly stated. Financial position is your account balances as of June 30th, 2014. So that's the cash, receivables and payables, fund balance. On that day, everything's fairly stated. And also the changes in financial position for the year. That's your revenues and expenditures. What happened from July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. So we go through the process of looking at backup to support the numbers, the amounts, the disclosures in the financial statements. It's up to us using our professional judgment. When we feel we have enough evidence to support our opinion, we issue that. The opinion in the financial statements for Half-Hollow Hills this year is what's known as an unmodified opinion. It's the highest level of opinion that auditors give on financial statements. The reader will read that opinion and know that the statements are free material misstatements, that and they've been prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So you can, when you look at these numbers, you can rely that they're free of any kind of material errors. We also issued a couple of reports on the government auditing standards. Being a government, we follow standards that are put out by the U.S. government. Those requirements, those standards require us to report on your internal controls over financial reporting, as well as compliance with laws and regulations. So during our audit, we're looking at the internal controls. The purpose of us looking at internal controls is to help us design our audit program, where we're going to test where we think a material mistake might occur. In that process, if we see a control deficiency that we feel is serious and could lead to a material misstatement, that's known as a material weakness, we would report that in that government report. This report, that when you read through it, will state that no material weaknesses came to our attention during the audit, and also that on the compliance side, there was no issues, there was no non-compliance issues that we came across as we did our audit. So it's a very positive report. Again, that's what the readers will be looking for. It's an unmodified opinion. Everything's fairly stated. Everything is prepared in accordance with GAAP. No material weaknesses. No instances of non-compliance. We also audit the extracurricular activity accounts, the student funds. We'll issue a separate report on that. It's a very basic report, but it does show each club and their cash balance at the end of the year. And we also issue a management letter which gives the management some things to think about and to maybe implement the strengthened controls as they go forward. Nothing in our management letter that constitutes material weakness. It's just other matters that we want to bring to management's attention. So that's my report this evening. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
What do you see as the greatest strength that we have in this process? Because clearly, what your report basically says is, and I'm going to use my terms, not necessarily professional terms, but basically like we didn't find anything wrong or we didn't find anything done incorrectly. But there may be areas that you were impressed that were like, wow, this is, we don't see this degree of compliance management, whatever word you want to use in other locations. What would you say our greatest strengths were?
Well, the strengths that you have are that you have a good system of internal control. You have more than one person involved in a transaction. So there's checks and balances. I mean, without that, that's what's known as segregation of duties. People are checking each other just in the normal course of processing a transaction. Without that, then a mistake could happen that wouldn't be caught. So I think that the fact that you have your business office designed in a way, whether it be payroll, whether it be payments to vendors, that the checks and balances are there. You also have a claims audit function that looks at every disbursement to vendors. So those are the controls that are important in an audit that allow you to, not have material misstatements in your numbers before we collect them. So we proposed entries, but none of the entries that we proposed were of any significance. They were just, things that we came across during the audit. But it didn't, if we had to propose material adjustment after adjustment, that would be a problem. You didn't have that.
Great. Then I guess I don't have any other questions. Does anybody on the board have any other questions? So I'd just like to say thank you to Anne Marie and her team, and for managing our finances and our money in such a way that we get the highest possible audit findings, and we're lauded for our control in the way that we are managing the funds of the district. So it is greatly appreciated, and it's great work for the district and it's great work for the taxpayers. So thank you very much.
Okay, then I understand that you'll be accepting the report this evening. Is that on the agenda? So then tomorrow we can send the reports up to the State Controller's Office and State Education.
Correct.
So we'll forward that tomorrow, and we'll copy you on that. Okay, then that's it. I'll say good night.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you. So with that, we'll move into the business portion of the meeting. First item of business are the minutes. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the board meeting of September 8th?
Motion? Second?
Any comments or questions? Great. All those in favor? Great. Any correspondence?
Mr. Ganswell, there's a second set of minutes.
I'm sorry.
October 2nd minutes.
I apologize that. Then we have a second set of minutes on October 2nd. So do we have a motion to accept those minutes? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Eric, I was not present at that meeting.
Okay. So would you like to abstain?
Abstain, yeah.
Okay, great. All those in favor? Great. Apologize for that. I guess we're up to correspondence.
Yes, the board received a letter from St. Cyril and the Affiliates Outreach thanking the Half Holland Hill Schools for the food drive that they handled.
Great. I happen to see another copy of that, and it's great that I believe that was from our Teachers Association or the Paras Association. It may have been a joint effort where they were collecting donations at, I think it was Superintendent's Conference Day, and the goal being to help fill the pantry up. So, it's a great thing that we do, And it's yet another way that our community kind of gives back to our community, so that was great. Any board committee updates?
Yes, Education Subcommittee. We met, we reviewed both the elementary level and the secondary level. With respect to the elementary, teachers over the summer had requested a revision of the elementary report card. So over the summer, there was a process we put in place where we gathered feedback from all the elementary teachers across the district. The committee, along with administrators, met many times to revise and make some changes to the report card and to the process. The result of that collaboration was that we're going to switch to a trimester system where we give 3 report cards. It's 3 marking periods throughout the school year instead of 4. Those dates are November 26th, March 13th, and June 26th. The result of that allows for much more time to have teaching going on, and that actually breaks down to, I think it's 12 weeks in the marking periods split equally, as opposed to 10 weeks in the marking period, which does not anticipate or take into account days off, vacations, and things will be in the class. This will be presented on the website. It will also be presented at upcoming PTA meetings. There'll be a guide on the website, which will be posted online, where you can see how the new report cards will read. November parent-teacher conferences, we'll be able to discuss and focus on the academic programs. The report cards will be issued after those initial meetings. In terms of the secondary level, we reviewed AP summer assignments. We had contacted numerous districts in the area and essentially all confirmed that they do have summer assignments in at least their AP or IB classes. Summer assignments, in terms of the extent and the time involved, have been left to our teachers' discretion. We did set some guidelines and parameters where they should be done, and many districts set parameters where they limit the amount of times allowed to be assigned over the summer is 5 to 15 hours per class. Most AP teachers in the district that were contacted felt that their summer assignments were relevant and meaningful for the course. That coursework fit into 2 categories, which was either for preparation for the course or additional content that could not be covered during the school year. We've been reminded when we ask that the AP test is not generated from the district, so our teachers are compelled to teach to a test that we have no control over. We've discussed AP enrollments. There are fluctuations throughout the time when school ends in June to the following September. Although we don't know exactly why or what happens, it's typical that students do not say that they're dropping a class because of a summer assignment or the length of the assignment, but more reasons given are for either changing a free period or remove a lunch. We also discussed the high school rankings that we heard a little bit about earlier tonight. There are several organizations, most notably U.S. News and World Report. The rankings, each of the different types of rankings use different methodologies and use different stages or checkpoints that must be passed to move up in the rankings. The checkpoints usually include general performance categories, as an example, how the students do on the ACT and the SAT, a targeted category for economically disadvantaged students, and those would be the performance of students with reduced lunch on the ELA and the math standardized exams, and this category that focuses on advanced or the college level participation in those classes. And we learned through some of this research that our district has been performing very well on the SAT and ACT scales, and our participation in the AP classes is very high. We are actually now looking into some programs where we can help increase and support our economically disadvantaged.
We had the Facilities Committee. We met on October 6th. We reviewed a whole number of different items, including the 5-year capital budget plan, various projects issues, and also address the facility usage for external clubs and so forth, based on the fact that we've had the buildings closed and we need to reconfigure the usage of the facilities. That's the facilities committee.
Great, thank you very much.
Mr. Gary's office, I address the board regarding New York State School Board's resolutions. The New York State School Board Association Resolutions Committee has presented school districts and all Board of Education members with a list of resolutions to be voted on at their annual business meeting on Monday, October 20th. In addition, the Nassau Sup't School Boards Association had its legislation, finance, and executive committees closely review the proposals and determine advisory positions that they presented at their September 29th resolution review meeting. They have recommended school districts to oppose support for Resolution Number 8, titled Supporting Cap Relief for Distressed Districts. They recommended support for Resolution Number 10, titled Supporting the Use of Student Performance in APPR. During an informal show of voting cards of the districts present at this meeting, this resolution was not supported by the majority of the school districts present. It is the superintendent's recommendation that we do not support these two resolutions. It is important to remember that it is the majority of the vote at the business meeting that is needed for these resolutions to pass. Thank you.
Lastly, we have a policy committee report. This evening, the policy committee submits to the board and the community one policy along with supporting regulations and exhibits for first reading and to amend an existing policy. This is Student Records Policy 5500, Student Records Regulation 5500R, FERPA Notice. FERPA stands for Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. Exhibit 5500E.1, Notification of Directory Information Designations, NCLB, Military Recruiters and Institution of Higher Learning Notice, and Parents' Bill of Rights for Privacy and Security of Third-Party Contractors. There's also a supplement in Exhibit 5500E.4. The policy has been amended to comply with Common Core Implementation Act of 2014 and guidance from the State Education Department entitled Parents' Bill of Rights for Data, Privacy, and Security. The new law and regulations focus on the protection of student personally identifiable information when school districts use third-party contractors, create new requirements regarding the Parents' Bill of Rights for data privacy and security, and additional notifications. The regulations provide details of the procedures the district will use to meet the requirements of FERPA and state laws as to the release of student records, safeguarding personally identifiable student data. The 4 exhibits include sample notification letters, documents that will be used to meet the requirements of FERPA and state law. This evening's literal reading may be waived on a majority of those present and voting. So we need a motion to waive the literal reading.
Motion.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
The second reading will take place November 17, 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pellet. Any other board committees?
I'd just like to acknowledge that this morning, the Budget/Audit Committee, we did meet with Mr. Peter Rodriguez, who just presented here our external audit report. This was just, of course, a very cursory overview. So he gave us quite a very comprehensive, with Ms. Henry Jerome Callahan as assistants, a very comprehensive review of the entire report. I must say I was extremely impressed with both their ability to respond to our questions. They were on top of every question we asked, and the results speak for themselves. So we're proud of the results. Thank you very much. And since we just happened this morning, we don't have any official reports, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we did have that subcommittee meeting.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Patuccia. Any other updates? Great. Any pending or unfinished business? No? Okay. Next will be comments from visitors, and Mrs. Marini's on her way to see if there are any folks who would like to comment on the presentation. So these are comments on the presentation. First person is Joe Kaufman.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask if that audit report or any other end-of-year audit report was given where the expenditures and encumbrances under budget were given and revenues over budget for the year?
I'm sorry, Joe, I couldn't hear you.
The expenditures and encumbrances under budget or the revenues over budget, was any of that, is that report available yet from the auditors as far as what our surplus is?
The whole report is available now as of this evening when the board adopts it.
Okay, and do you have those figures, or are you going to be putting it online tomorrow?
It will be posted as it is every other year in the morning after it's adopted.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Next one, I apologize if I don't pronounce the name correct. Leistra Gaddy.
She left.
And the third one is Honey Cohn.
Yes, my comment or question isn't specifically on the presentation. Do you want that question now, or do you?
That would be at the end.
At the end, okay.
Okay. Great. Mrs. Fallon?
Thank you, Mr. Garens. Well, Dr. Harrigan?
Thank you, Mrs. Fallon. Using my presentation, my personnel report includes a certificated, non-certificated, additional compensation as well as an addendum. In addition, I'd like to highlight two action items. The first is the recertification of lead evaluators for both the evaluators of principals and the evaluators of teachers. It's a complete recertification this year. We have no new administrators in the district. We've been doing this for the past few years with the APPR law. So we recertified all of our administrators at our first leadership council in September. Secondly, tonight for approval is a memorandum of agreement between the district and the Half Hollow Hills Teachers Association. As you've seen, it is a 5-year deal that extends out until June 2019. The total salary increase over that 5 years is 3%, which lays out as 0% in the first year, 0.5%, 1%, 0.5%, and 1%. You'll note in year 3 and year 5 there is a delayed step, and you'll note that beginning in September of 2015 there were limits on column movement for teachers. Also, I think we've come up with some really forward-thinking new pieces to the Teachers Association contract. The first being a sick day bank that recognizes that at times we may have dedicated employees experiencing a catastrophic illness, and this sick day bank is a true partnership between the district and the Teachers Association, where each teacher is contributing to the bank, and in the event that one of their members is experiencing extreme hardship, will be able to go to that bank at a really important time in their life. Another piece that's new, and we're going to work out the details and look to pilot a job share program that's aimed at kind of increasing flexibility, potentially saving jobs. It's cost neutral to the district, but I think it's another positive, forward-thinking type of initiative in a teacher's contract. You'll note there's a lot of things that are contractual language. We've come into compliance with laws such as FMLA, changes to the New York State Health Insurance Program, seniority rights, the APPR, and grievance procedures. So there's a lot there that's specifically language, but all in all, there's kind of a mix of some really new and progressive types of things, partnership between the school district and teachers that I'm happy to recommend to you tonight. So if you'd like, I can read a resolution. Okay. Be it hereby resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Half Hollow Hills Central School District approves the terms and conditions of the Memorandum of Agreement dated September 12, 2014, between the district and the Half Hollow Hills Teachers Association regarding the terms and conditions of employment for the period of July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2019. Be it further resolved that the President of the Board of Education is authorized to execute the resulting collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the Board.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Any comments or questions? I'll make one comment, and it's kind of along the lines that you had mentioned there, Dr. Harrigan, and that is that Half Hollow Hills has consistently had a great working relationship with our teachers union and been forward-thinking in many of the things that we've done and progressive in many of the things that we've done. So it's great to see that this is yet another agreement that allows us to be progressive and really offer some things that are different that benefit both the school district and the children, as well as the teachers themselves. So thank you very much for your work and the work with the Teachers Association. All those in favor? Great, thank you.
Certainly, and in any negotiations, you need someone to work with. So, I thank Mr. Haas and his team and the work and collaborative efforts to get this deal to you today. Would you like to take the rest of the report in its entirety?
Sure. I'd like a motion to take the rest of the report in its entirety. Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Great. Motion to approve the report in its entirety. Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fallon. The first item on my report, before I ask that you approve the audit report that Peter Rodriguez just presented to you, I just wanted to highlight one item in particular. The results of that audit landed us with some additional surplus, which meant either additional revenue that wasn't anticipated or additional unspent budget dollars. At the end of the day, what we were able to do is to give back to the taxpayer an additional $1.2 million, which is called appropriated fund balance. That's the technical term. So what that means, at its fundamental level, is that when the budget was approved, we went out and indicated that our property tax levy cap formula allowed us to have a property tax levy increase of up to 2.34%. And when we designed our budget, we went up to that cap. As most districts do, we didn't need to go over that cap. So we needed a simple majority vote, which we accomplished overwhelmingly. What we're able to do now is to take that 2.34% and bring that down to 1.69% of an increase. And that is because the board has agreed to allow us to take some of that surplus and give that back to the taxpayers. Doing that additional appropriated fund balance means you have a lower tax levy. So that tax levy of 1.69%, if you just go back about 22 years, which is what I was able to quickly gather, the only other times that we've come close to that lower tax levy were in 1988-89, when we had an increase of just under 1%, and in 2009-10, when we had an increase of 1.66%. So in the past 22 years, that's within the top 3 lowest tax levy increases we've been able to achieve. So when you adopt the audit report and you adopt the tax levy, that is what you're adopting. So with that said, in my report, the first item is the adoption of the audit report as presented by Cullen and Danowski.
Great, do we have a motion to accept? Do we have a second? Any comments or questions?
Emery, as always,
It's my pleasure.
Great. All those in favor? Great.
Our next item after the audit report is adopted each October is to allow us to set the tax levy. So incorporating what we have as what we call the 4%, it's an unreserved, undesignated amount of money we're able to hold back by law. The appropriation that I referred to that's enabling us to reduce our tax levy, what at the end of the day, item B refers to the tax levy for school purposes of $190,898,714. So the second motion that I'm recommending is that you adopt that as the tax levy for the Capitola School District for 2014-15.
Do we have a motion?
motion. Second.
Great. Any comments or questions? Great. All those in favor?
Thank you. The library cannot levy their own taxes. We levy it for them. So they have requested that we levy approximately $7.1 million as detailed in item C.
Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Do we- Second. Thanks, James. Any comments or questions?
I'd just like to quickly comment on these people every year. I mean, why are we levying the library taxes? We actually own the property, and by law, we actually have to collect the money for them.
Correct. Correct. It's not just, we're being nice people, we must. Thank you.
Well, we are nice people.
And we're nice people.
Good. All those in favor? Great, thank you.
In one fell swoop, we now are right into 2015-16 budgeting. So the next item is to allow us to, the recommendation is to allow us to adopt the budget calendar for the development of next year's budget.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Thank you. Budget transfers, standard item on my board report. We have a couple of cleanup items from 13-14, which have already been incorporated into the financial report that was presented, and then a couple of budget transfers for 2014-15 as detailed in Appendix E.
Great, do we have a motion?
Motion?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Thank you. The next item is